pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Toss to White. He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl!
Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to another edition here of the Patriots Touchback Podcast. It's me, your host, Carl. I'm joined as always by my boys, DJ, Luke, and Nick are all in the house. And, well, we were hoping for something better, but this was basically, I wouldn't say relining deck chairs on the Titanic, more like reshuffling cat shit on a litter tray. But we will dive into this with absolute haste and a lot of drink. So cheers. We are drowning our sorrows tonight. DJ, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Another loss. It's coming the typical thing now, isn't it? So getting used to the new ways.
It's not getting angry anymore. It's just numb. It's just numbness now. Nick, I know your hamster is working overtime on your computer. But how are you doing, sir?
I'm all right, thank you. I ended up watching the Patriots on a delay, so I ended up watching it Monday lunchtime after I'd already received all your messages about how terrible it was. But I still put myself through it.
Spoiler alerts.
I wish I hadn't, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And of course, for the first time in about a couple of weeks, Luke's back with us. Luke, good to see you, sir. How have you been?
I've not been too bad at all. I don't think I'm as down as everybody else is, but also I had lower expectations on the season. So I think we're all in the same place. Some of us might have just arrived at different times.
Where do you want to start?
You expected it because you expected us to be like this.
Yeah.
That's why you've
been calling it for the last few years.
I know.
Yeah, and now it's hit us hard, and now we are trying to make sense of what's happened. We tried to make sense of what happened against the Saints last week, and this week, well, where do you want to start? Who wants to take the floor?
Points this week.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna take a.
I grew my hair. I grew my hair 2 inches this week. What's your point?
I'm gonna be. I'll start off because I'll be Mr. Hembrick for this edition. So I finished off last week's pod on a positive to say that I thought we were gonna beat the Raiders this time round, and I must say, even though some play calling might have been probably not the best to the knowledge that we know, I thought we played better than what we have in the last 2 to 3 weeks. I thought we at least showed up to the game, and I thought we managed to build some kind of confidence level. Defense wise, I thought again they bailed us out. Having said that about like Jimmy G coming out at half time and Hoyer just then, I think he just really did us over in the next 3 to 4 quarters. Fourth quarter, I think he just played the game to win it out at the end. I didn't see there was no extra drive in the Raiders going forward. I thought it was just Raiders just winning out the game in the last 3 and fourth quarter. But I did see a glimmer of hope from certain players on the offensive side. So I think Kendrick Bourne played an astonishing game, to be honest, probably his best of the year, or the best in the last 2 years. I thought Zeke, he played a good running game as well with what he could. I mean, I did see Stevenson, he came out of the game around half-time-ish with a minor injury, but then he did appear back in the fourth quarter. So I thought he did have a decent running game for the game. And then the O-line, there was a glimmer of hope here and there, but still there is questions to be said about that O-line. But I definitely do feel overall we showed a little bit of courage and a little bit of hope of what we haven't done in the last 2 to 3 weeks. That's my perspective of how we did in that game.
I mean, that is the most positive outlook. But unfortunately, there's no such thing as morale victories in the NFL. It's either you win or you lose.
No, yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And what I'm more annoyed about was this team is so undisciplined. It is ridiculous. I mean,
It's not Belichick like. Put it that way.
it's not the Patriots. Right?
Yeah. I think he's completely lost the locker room, to be honest. I don't
We
feel.
You know, the prime example, okay? So let's just go back to the first drive, okay? So it started off straight away, 5-yard penalty. Vidarian Lowe. Why is he still on this roster? I do not know.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, I
he
get that.
can't block, he can't block, he can't tackle, he can't do anything. So a false start straight off the bat on your first play. Next one, passing complete short left, penalty on Trent Brown. He ended up being the ineligible player downfield. Great. Another 5 yards back. We go. So second and 15 at the New England 20. Passing complete to Ramondre Stevenson. And then on third and 15, we tried a running play with a 6-yard run on Stevenson. I mean, we talked about last week. We set the tone for what happened with the Saints game with the pick six. This was even This was even detrimental. 2 straight penalties, and then on third and extremely long, you go for a running play. Our offensive line can't block, so the blocking schemes for the running game is completely and utterly useless. Even though you did point out that Ezekiel Elliott was probably the better running back of the two, and managed to get yardage, but that's because he's a bulldozer. He is primarily a bell cow running back. He is used to bashing his way. He can get through lanes, no problem, but he also creates lanes for himself by just bashing people out the way, and that is Ezekiel Elliott. Luke, what's your take on this? What do you think has got? I would say what's gone horribly wrong. We know what's gone horribly wrong. The team is an absolute shambles, but. Talk to me, man. What did you see from your point of view, which stood out? What was so wrong?
Yeah, like I to be honest, I thought the performance was improved. Now, again, you're talking about a very low bar, right? You're not even be able to compare this team to a team from last year. This is still a historically bad team. Coaching effort, everything. It's bad all around. But there were a few drives there that I thought that it wasn't too bad. It looked a bit like Patriots football from last year. Again, very low bar. Patriots football from last year wasn't all that good. We were giving out about it all last year, but it looked a bit kind of similar. I'm not sure. Like to be honest, from my perspective, I know I've been on in a few weeks. I think it's equal parts lack of talent at the receiving position, equal parts the offensive line, and equal parts the quarterback in terms of what's on the field. Obviously, all of that comes back to Bill Belichick doing a bad job as GM, putting bad product on the field, and then putting, I would say, poor offensive game plans on the field as well, because I think the defense is playing very well. And I don't think that Bill's lost the locker room at all, because you look around and you look at the players, they're playing hard. They're just not very good. Like, there's not a lack of effort there. There's just a lack of talent. I don't think you're looking at guys doing the Chase Claypool of, jogging routes and things like that. That's guys not trying. That's the guy that would be a team that lost the locker room. We don't see that. You see guys trying their best and being beaten by guys much more talented than them. And that's what I'm seeing, and I think the depressing part, I suppose, is that everybody's celebrating about the fact that we have a load of cap room next year. The reason we have a load of cap room is that we haven't paid any of the players, any good players. And the reason we haven't paid any good players is because we don't have any to pay that are worth keeping. I think a lot of people at the start of the year thought Uche would be around. He's done a whole lot of nothing so far this year. On when you do, I think, is our best offensive lineman. But do you want to invest heavily into a right guard? You kind of need a good offensive line, though, because you've shat the bed with the Cole Strange pick. David Andrews doesn't look like David Andrews anymore. You don't have a right tackle. And Trent Brown, I think when he's motivated, plays well. But how long more can you rely on him to be your left tackle? So do you want to nail down him as your right guard? I don't believe in paying guards a whole 10 million plus or drafting them the first round. I think that's what got us in this mess in the first place. I can keep going, but I'm going to stop now and let somebody else talk.
Nick, what about you? What do you say?
Last week, Belichick came out and he said, "Oh, we're gonna start over. We need to." But when he said we're going to start over, everyone was like, "So what does that entail?" And he goes, "Starting over." Same as Bill Belichick always does. Don't give you anything. But I watched that, and I didn't see any starting over. I didn't see any change. There was no difference. The team from front to back, from offense to defense, they seemed to lack the basics. They seemed to lack the fundamentals. Yeah, there was an improvement, but the Patriots are in a serious issue. Have a serious issue because there are many opinions as to where you go from here, and whether you start selling up, trading away players for draft picks and start a rebuild. But the problem is, and we have had this discussion many a times, so I'm not going to go over old ground. You have a man at the top controlling everything who you don't have faith in. Are you going to trade all these players away for picks and then say to the man who hasn't done a decent draft in his life, here's all these picks, rebuild the team? I have no faith in where we are now and the way we're going. We're just, unless you tell, there's Bills next week, Dolphins the week after. So there's a good chance we're going to go to the trade deadline 1-7, unless we are going to start unless we're going to run the table and win all the remaining games, which I don't think we will.
No.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid. God's sake, don't drink the Kool-Aid.
No, I don't believe we will. I think it's highly unlikely that we'll win many more. But
1-16.
you come to the no, I think we might be 3 or 4. When you come to that trade deadline in 2 weeks, there are assets that you can trade away, and you need to know Kraft is the man at the top. If he is going to move the Patriots forward, he has to make a decision in these next 2 weeks as to where.
He has to get rid of Bill for GM, flat, but he won't do it mid-season. I don't think he'll do it mid-season.
No, we're not saying get rid of Belichick in his entirety. I think Nick's trying to say get rid of Belichick, the GM, but keep him on as the coach.
Do you think Bill's going to do that? Do you think Bill's going to say, "Oh yeah, okay, Mr. Kraft, I'll step down as GM"?
I don't think he will. But I don't think he will. But there's
he'll kick up a fuss and he'll say GM coach or I'm gone.
Yeah, but
that's when Kraft needs to fucking grow a pair of balls and say, "Right, we're done."
Yeah, but Nick, what did I say last week? I said no player, no coach, no staff member is bigger than the franchise.
That's true. But there is no accountability. There is no accountability in the franchise at all. Kraft turns out, and rightly so. He's only the man that owns the thing. He gives everything to Belichick. It's Bill Belichick's shit. Right, okay, fine. So you can understand Kraft not taking responsibility. He's not happy, but it's not his fault. You look at Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick will blame anybody but himself. He'll blame the coaches. He'll blame the players. The O-line are blaming the D-line. The wide receivers are blaming Mac. Mac's blaming the wide receivers. You've got the running backs blaming the O-line because they can't block. It's just nobody seems to be standing there and saying, you know what, I put my hand up, I'm not good enough anymore. It's like Parker, that catch, I'm sorry, that's a drop. You had it in your hand. You had it in the palm of your hand and you dropped it. Yet Parker comes out in the press conference and says, oh, well, I barely got 2 fingers on it. Come on. When if you're wrong, just say it. And that's my point. Nobody seems to be willing to say, yeah, you know what, it's on me. And Mac is lacking in so much confidence. He's got no confidence in the O-line to protect him. He's got no confidence in himself, in his ability to make. There was a play when he did his check through, and I think he should have thrown it on like his second check. But he didn't have the confidence in his own arm, and he didn't have the confidence in himself and his decision-making to say, yeah, I'm going to throw it now. And he held on to it, and instead it went out left a few yards and didn't go anywhere when there was an open pass 12, 15 yards down the field. There is confidence issues across the board. There is no accountability across the board. And the sooner this trade deadline comes, the better, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got at least 6 players that we can get value for. Some of them are out of contract at the end of the year anyway. Some of them aren't. But I'm not saying let's press the button and blow the whole thing up. But I think you need to seriously consider the fact that we are going to be picking in the top 3 or 4.
Who are those players, Nick? Because I don't think there's a lot of talent on this roster, and I don't see much.
Do you mean trading out players or
yeah?
Going
Well,
out bringing?
I'm saying I've got 4 players. I've got 4 players. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 players whose contracts are running out that I believe you can get something for. Might not be a lot. Might only be a 5, a 6, or a 7. But nevertheless, the 5 players I've got whose contracts are up at the end of the year that I wouldn't be giving a new contract to are Bourne, Uche, Henry, Brown, and Onwenu. Now, Onwenu has been always injured, so you might not get anything for him. He's a possible. Bourne, you should be able to get something for, even if it's a 7. Same with Uche. Henry, probably yes. Brown, again, might not get much for him. The 2 that aren't out of contract that I think you could probably get maybe a 3 for are Matt Jones and Kyle Duggar. And I don't want to trade Kyle Duggar. I think he's a crucial piece of, but he is probably him and Judon are probably the only substantial value we have. Jimmy G got injured yet again. I bet you Vegas will give you a 3rd for Matt Jones. Easy.
No, they won't.
Why would they? You're trading for probably the worst starting quarterback in the NFL at the moment, and there's a few backups I would have over.
Who's got the better weapons? Us or the Raiders?
Raiders.
Who's got the better running game? Us or the Raiders?
Raiders
do, yeah.
Who's got the better O-line? Us or the Raiders?
Marginally the Raiders.
On paper, we should have. Raiders.
I love how Luke said marginally the Raiders. Okay, fair enough. But you put that all together. Mac Jones was with Josh McDaniels in his first year. Wouldn't surprise me.
I would go with Hoyer.
Yeah, but
I wouldn't trade for Mac.
But you wouldn't why would you go for him? He's never beaten anybody. He's never led. He never rises up.
This is the thing. He lacks in confidence. He doesn't have this winning drive. Player. Max. That's what he thought is. He needs this. He needs 1 game or 2 games to go and freaking destroy that team, whoever they're playing against, and do a winning drive. because his confidence is low, is like way down.
DJ, but you're asking him to do something he's never ever done as a professional footballer. He has
never grow a pair and go out and do it.
Never led a winning drive.
I've said this once, and I will say it again. He had his second year completely decimated because of Patricia and because of Judge.
The second year was a lot better than this year. Patricia and Judge weren't the problem by the looks of things.
True.
Well, now
what's better? How much
this
better
year
is
is
the
worse.
offense this year?
Now it extends higher.
Yeah, it's just that like Mac Jones, we had a fairly favourable schedule the first half, the first year of his rookie year, and he did pretty well. He looked after the ball quite well. Wasn't making any exceptional throws or anything like that, but we won the games.
The thing is though, Luke, okay, is that Belichick right now, he is still trying to do it his way. In this stage of the NFL, the players are a lot more younger, and you have to take a slightly more different approach to those players. You can't just be the big grouchy man who runs this franchise like with an iron fist. You can't. We're not in the Bill Walsh, Tom Landry, or the Bill Parcells era anymore. You can't do that anymore. It's a lot more. You've got to be more embracive. You've got to be more inviting to the players because, yes, okay, that might sound like a very, very soft approach, but that's sort of in the day and age of the NFL where we're sort of in now. We're guiding up the player personnel. And I think Belichick is, me, Nick, and DJ, we said this last week, he has not moved on with the times. And the more he keeps doing that, the more we're falling further and further back behind.
But I don't think the way he manages the player personnel. I think, like, in terms of how he manages the people, I mean, I think he's bringing in the wrong players. I don't think it's anything to do with how he manages the players once they're in the building. We've historically been terrible at developing receivers, but I don't think it's because Bill can't relate to the players or, you know, he's ruling with an iron fist. I mean, I don't think that matters too much. Sorry, it does. Sorry, of course it matters. But what I'm saying is, I don't think we're failing because of that. I think there's 1,000,001 things you can get to on the list of things Belichick is doing wrong. And this is not me protecting Belichick. This is just me saying there's a hell of a lot more other things that he's doing wrong before you get to is the way he's coaching and interacting with players, you know, the problem. I don't think that's the problem. I'm not saying he's not doing it well. I'm just saying, like, personnel.
I mean, he did drafted three defensive men and 2 kickers. So is that on Belichick's fault, or is that on who's the other guy, the player personnel guy? Was it Grohl? His name is
Grohl. No. It's everything comes down to Belichick, right? He is final say on everything. Yeah. Grohl is just there to assist and guide.
This is why I said last week, if Belichick is willing to step down from the GM role, then put Grohl in charge. Let's see what he can do. He can't be any freaking worse. I would just say to him, don't draft defense because our defense is actually still pretty legit. Yeah. Go get us some O-line. Go get us some receivers. Go get us a legitimate freaking tight end that can actually get separation. Just concentrate on offense because we're dead last. We're dead last in offense.
I think the common trend we're currently seeing as well is, I think, from a personal perspective, I think Mac is very immature. I think he tends to give up quite easily. So this team has got a common trend now where if we're 10, 14 behind, we're not coming back and we're not winning the game because that's just how we are starting off the games. We are always battling from 2-point score, 3-point score, or a point score and a field goal. And he tends to struggle to bring the team up. And I mean, not just him, I think the coaching side as well, situation as well, the play calling. They don't adapt well when they fall behind so much. They tend to, either Mac just tends to give up or they do diabolical play calling where Mac throws an interception where that was totally on Mac what he did there. There was no need to run out and fucking lob it to Henry when we was wide open.
I can't believe he actually done that. That was just.
It's just a common scene now, week in, week out. We are always 10, 14 points behind, and that's it. Game from the first quarter, it's game over.
But the thing
we struggle
is,
to come back.
DJ, is that teams know that, right? Teams know that if they stall us out on offense to start the game, which is not the hardest thing to do in the world, that they know that, and they go down the field and score because they have all the other 31 teams have a more high-powered offense than we do. If you then know that, okay, now the Patriots have to try and move the ball, and they have to do it quicker because they're behind, say you're 2 scores behind. Okay, now we have to force the ball down the field more, which is something that Mac Jones can't do. If outside of throwing little dump passes and 5-yard slants, he's not capable of consistently, and that's keyword, consistently making plays down the field without throwing interceptions and turnovers, because he can, like that throw to Parker the other day, fantastic throw, absolutely should have caught it. He can do that, but the difference between a good starting quarterback and a guy that would be a perennial backup is you see these guys like Taylor Heineke, he'd come in for a game or two and look really good, and then you start playing him for a longer period of time, like Ryan Fitzpatrick. You see these guys and they play for a full season, and you go, do you know what? He really can't do it for a full season, can he? Mac Jones is that. I'm not saying he's a terrible quarterback. Of course he's not. He's a decent quarterback, but he's never going to get you to that level. And I know I'm ragging on Mac here a lot, but what I want to say is that I think fundamentally you will go nowhere as a franchise until that is fixed. You can fix all the other things, but you will go nowhere until you fix that.
And it will only get worse.
Right. Off the field, we can sort that separately. On the field, you can get all the weapons, you can protect him, and get the Iron Curtain out there and protect him. And he will still get you to you'll squeak into the playoffs and remember the Houston Texans, I think, of 2013, where they got to the playoffs with TJ Yates and we absolutely steamrolled them. That's the type of playoff team we'll be under him. We'll just about get there and get smashed by the first decent team we see.
I mean, what Carl just basically said there was like, the defense is doing the defense jobs. Yes, the defense is all right, but they're still giving up points left, right, and centre. It gets to a point where the defense can't keep bailing the offense out. They're going to get pissed off.
They gave up 16
They're going to turn around and say, right, we're doing what we're doing, but you're not giving us what you're giving your side offensive-wise. And then technically, I saw a stat the other day. I think it was during the game. It was where the defense is getting tired because the offense is not giving the defense enough rest. So I think we had our first 2 drives were 2 minutes, 15 seconds or some shit like that. I can't remember the stat exactly, and it took the Raiders 7 minutes of offense to go and drive the field. Mm-hmm. You're not giving your defense enough time. You're just going to burn them. And that's where it's just, then you can't really blame that defense.
To be fair to the defense, though, DJ, they really only gave up 16 points in that game. If you include the Mac Jones interception, which had led to a field goal, and obviously then the safety, they gave up 16 points. That, for a good defense, is actually very, very good. The offense just couldn't do it. The offense just could not do it. And I don't care what anybody says.
The defense has never been in question. The defense has never been in question. Yes, they're gassed towards the end of the game because they're knackered, because they've been on the field.
And they've lost 2 key guys.
I don't think anybody has actually ever questioned the defense. The defense is a quality defense and is run by a quality coordinator and quality defensive head coach. We have no issue with the defense. Carl just said Carl just said it. To give up 16, we played the Eagles. We played the Eagles first off the bat. And Carl, me and you were there in the pub, and we said how well the defense has played to keep that game. Again, week after against the Dolphins, the defense worked their backside off and kept the score down. But it's only half a game. The defense can't do it all, and
I would say a third of the game if you want to include special teams in that as well, because we're dead last in special teams as well.
Yeah, but my point being that I said earlier about no accountability and the D-line blaming the O-line. I'm not surprised the D-line are blaming the O-line because DJ just said it. They're not getting enough. They're not getting off the field. They're not getting enough rest when they are off the field. We as a offensive team are inept, and I do not see that changing under the current
regime.
Coach. Under the current regime was the word I wanted. Yes. No.
Totally agree. Totally agree. It's just look, we're sitting now at 1-5 now. It's looking more and more bleak as the season is going to start going ahead now.
Thank you. Fucking tank it.
I mean, put it this way, okay? The final drive was just a shambles, a total utter shambles, okay? Because here we go. So it's a chance to win the game, right? 6-yard gain, holding penalty. Devontae Parker dropped pass, which was in his hands, and then he just denied it. Delay of game, and then a safety. That was the final play on that. That was the final drive to try and to win something again. Now, people will turn around and say they blame Devontae Parker for the catch, and rightly so. So he catches that. We're inside their 40. One more first down. You give Chad Ryland finally an opportunity to actually be a hero instead of actually scoffing his kicks. You get given one good chance, and I personally think right now, we signed Devontae. But we signed Devontae Parker, who can't get separation, who can't get to an extension, who can't get separation, and now he can't catch. I mean, it's just stupid.
I'd bench him. Bench him.
I would as well.
And then you got Butte. Fucking, I don't know what he's done wrong, but he's
healthy
been
scratch.
Sick.
He's a healthy. It's
It's
a healthy scratch.
But he's.
I reckon he's in Bill's bad books, and he's been given a 5-6 game sit down for not dragging your feet twice on the field. But
What do you fucking do? It's game. What was it? Week 1 was against the Eagles.
Yeah, and his attitude on Devontae Parker's after the press conference thing, that's bang out of order. That's worthy more of what he's just done.
Parker should be banned for that game. I just want to see if Kendrick Bourne does get traded, which if he does for a pittance, then it will happen.
I don't think we will because he's our best wide receiver at the moment. I don't see us releasing him.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No. So then I would run
for value. I get it. For value, I get it. But situation,
I would just run with the 4 receivers that still need a point to prove, and that is obviously Kendrick Bourne, obviously Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, and Tyquan Thornton as the deep threat.
But what have we seen from Kayshon Boutte that would make
he ain't getting a fair shot.
Better than Parker.
Well, he ain't getting a fair crack. Let's put it that way. He ain't getting a fair shot.
No, but what I'm saying is it's not somewhat like, don't tell me why he tell me why he isn't. Don't tell me why he isn't getting a fair shot. Tell me why he should get a fair shot. What is there? He's a 6th round wide receiver. We've drafted guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th round before in the past.
Cool.
And even made it out of camp, so it can't be his draft position.
Well, I'll counteract that by saying Antonio Brown was a 6th round receiver, and look how that turned out. You can find
we can cherry pick, guys, all over the board. You
get more talent at receiver in the lower rounds. What you do in the top 2 rounds of the draft.
I think his college projectile was supposed to be on like this, but then he had a massive injury. I think in his last.
Yeah.
In his senior season, and kind of dipped a bit because of the injury, but there is potential there. but he just needs to show that potential, which I don't think he's shown in the last. Well, he hasn't been given a true opportunity.
As I said, he's been a healthy scratch.
It was just that last pre-season game. I think he's shown a bit of what he can do. But yeah, I would personally put him in now in place of Parker. Parker, I think he had some his route running was poor as well. Not on Mac, because he threw the ball where there was one drive where he was supposed to have cut too early and he just went the other way. And wasn't on Mac, but I think it's more Parker. His route running wasn't up to par either. But I reckon, yeah, if we can give Butte an opportunity, Douglas, like our season's done. So you might as well just give the rookies some kind of perspective and see what they can do. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, Nick, we were talking about Keishon Butte not getting an opportunity. And obviously Parker's...
Why is always on the fucking injury list.
Right, okay.
Well, yeah.
I mean, somebody, he's not a wide receiver, but Mapu last week played maybe close to half a game, 45% of the snaps, I think, Mapu. And then this week he didn't play. He was not even... I think he was on the bench, but didn't make an appearance. He might have made one.
He seems to be always healthy related issues. I think the whole preseason, the whole training camp, he was on a red jersey. I have a funny feeling there's something a bit more to that than meets the eye of him not having enough reps. But I don't know. I might be wrong.
You're gonna. The problem I have is I genuinely don't see how we go forward. There's so, it's, you just stood there in this thick fog and you're like, right, where do we go? Because I just don't know. The roster is so bad. Carl, we were talking last week about, we've got this 100 million in salary cap, and you could go and blow 30 million on Evans and 30 million on Higgins.
Yep.
Go and get yourself a good tight end. You could blow that 100 million on three decent players and maybe a backup. And then you've got your draft. But if you don't trust what's going on, then where do you go?
I mean, the worst case scenario for Belichick is he'll trade down out, not trade down out first, but he'll just trade further down to accumulate more picks and maybe end up taking a freaking offensive lineman. That's not. But you've
got a top 4 pick. You cannot trade down. I can't. If he trades down,
but he will.
Of course he will. He will.
No, I can't see him. You cannot trade down your top. If you're in a top 3 or 4 pick, I can't see him trading down. He's going to take the best player on the board at the time. That being Caleb or whoever it's going to be, or Franklin.
You know I've actually just changed my mind on that. I was saying he would trade down, but realistically, we haven't seen him draft or have a pick in the top 10, and since the early 2000s, and he took some very good players in the early 2000s and didn't trade down back then, and draft some great players. So I can't get cross at him for something he hasn't done yet. I suppose. I think.
Do you trust him?
Do I trust? No.
Do you trust him? Do you trust him at pick 4, regardless of whether he's going to trade down or not? If you are giving Bill Belichick pick number 4, do you trust him to make the right decision? Because I don't.
No, I don't, because he has no cash in the bank.
Depends who's on the board.
To drafting for the last, probably since Chandler Jones and
Casario
John
list.
Hightower, I'd say.
Yeah.
That was
It's
probably his
Casario
last really, really good draft. And it's because he had 2 first-round picks. And he traded back in those rounds too. But I suppose it made sense then he had 2 first-round picks, and that draft was full of talent as well. So yeah. Just really quickly, right? Just going back to Keishon Butte, right? Or Booty. The reason you're right, he got injured in 2021, and that kind of slowed his trajectory a bit. But when he came back, I think he struggled to get time back in terms of like being the number 1 receiver. I think he'd lost his spot. And he
was that because Burrow left?
I can't remember now. But what happened after that then is that it's more of an attitude issue with him. Like, I don't believe in the combine. I'm just going to say that as a physical effort or physical thing. But what it does teach you is, do these guys work hard in order to get to a goal, right? You know, are these guys disciplined? So Booty used to be a track athlete and was expected to run about a 4.3, or should have run a 4.3. He ran a 4.5 and a 4.67 at his 40-yard times. His 29-inch vertical jump was the lowest by any skill player, not any wide receiver, any skill player. His broad jump was the second lowest in the wide receiver group. That to me shows a guy that just didn't put any effort in. He probably showed up the day and just ran it. And he was drafted based on his 2020 season, because his 2021 and 2022 seasons weren't great. And he was projected, if he came out after 2020 season, he was projected to be a number 1 pick. A first-round pick or second-round pick anyway, at least. But because of his attitude, we've seen it plenty with lots of wide receivers and lots of other players. Because they don't put the work in, they don't get on the field. And because they don't get in the field, they fade into nothingness and we never see them again. I'm not saying that's going to be the case with Booty, but there's 1,000,001 cases of him, you know, in the NFL.
Well, there was a report.
Make the NFL.
Well, one of the Patriots beat reporters put out an article, and this was damning because I shared this to you lot on the group chat. Okay, so according to a league source, part of that business includes basically, or when it comes to like being GM and so on. According to a league source, part of the business includes a front office that evaluates players almost entirely without the assistance of analytics. GPS tracking data, such as publicly available information from Next Gen Stats, would have tipped them off that a receiver like Parker generates the least separation in the league. Poor separation currently plagues all of the team's receivers, except 6th-round rookie Demario Douglas, who is responsible for Jones' longest game of the season. So it's all right to say, yeah, okay, we've got Butte, and that's a prime example with Keishon Butte then. Because if that's what you're leading on analytics, then why are we not going for someone with a little that has, you know, as I said, better analytics than certain players are? It just feels like he'll go for a certain player or certain defensive player, and then it'll be like, there you go, back end of the round, now let's just do offense again. This guy, without even looking at the metrics. That's criminal malpractice as a GM in this day and age.
That goes back to his old school ways. That goes back to Bill just being, Bill of 20 years ago and just not moving with the times. I know how I'm going to draft. I know who I want to draft. I'm going to draft this way, and I don't need newfangled analytics to tell me who a good player is. I like him. He lives football. He drinks football. He sleeps football. That was always used to be one of Bill's requirements. But, when they have a pre-draft interview sort of thing, one of the things that always used to come out of the pre-draft interviews is Bill was always looking for someone that, as Shankly would say, like you eat, drink, sleep football, and I think that's what Bill wants. Bill wants from his draft pick someone who is dedicated to the game. He doesn't care about analytics. He never will.
And he used to draft from that college. What's it called?
Rutgers.
Rutgers.
Yeah. He stopped doing that a while back now, and it's turned out
the
shit.
reason why he stopped doing it because one of his best friends in football is Greg Schiano. Greg Schiano was the head coach of Rutgers around that time. They drafted Jerron Harmon, Devin McCourty, and I think they got a few other Rutgers guys in around that time as well. And then Greg Schiano became the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers around 2013, I want to say.
Yeah.
And obviously that well then dried up, so we stopped drafting players from there. But what he does do, and what he does frequently, is he drafts players from, we'll say, right, you have a defensive end you have 5 defensive ends that are projected to go between rounds 3 and 5.
Duggar, for example.
He'll go generally, right? I think Duggar's an outside example, right? He'll generally go and, right, who's the coach at who's the head coach of these 5 players? I like the way they do things there. I'll draft this guy without actually, because if you look through the schools that he drafts from, a lot of players are from Michigan. We had a big influx of players from Michigan, which I was delighted about because I'm a Michigan guy. Obviously, I'm white. And and there's also Alabama, the Nick Saban.
But do you think that's why we got Mac?
Yeah.
No, because I think because I thought, well, we needed a quarterback anyway.
Well, we needed a quarterback, and he would have had his home.
We could have got fucking Justin Fields.
Yeah, but Justin Fields had gone already.
They traded up.
If Mac had gone to San Francisco, yeah.
Oh, sorry, wasn't
San Francisco.
Was it Lamar Jackson?
No,
The year before.
Lamar Jackson he could have got before Brady retired. Instead, he
that was when we had 2 picks. That was when we
Right.
had 2 picks, and we traded. We traded one of them to the Ravens, and they had our pick of 32.
But even now, right? There's 3 wide receivers on a free agency that I would go out and get right now and bring him in, and they'll top any of them. It's Golladay. I think Golladay's still got something in him.
He did nothing. He did nothing.
The Lions years,
he did nothing.
Giants, yeah, fair enough. But it's a different scheme. I think Landry. You bring in Landry as a veteran, I think he'll do better than fucking Parker and whoever. And
Landry knows more slot,
even
but
Julio Jones, I would have brought him in as well.
He's gone to the Eagles.
All of these guys, right? Even if they are as good as you think they are right now, what are they going to do? You might win a few more games this year, and you.
Would you not prefer them than what you've got now?
Draft sweepstakes for the quarterback. You're basically taking yourself out of that conversation by making yourself better now. Like Julio Jones was washed with the Titans last year. He couldn't stay healthy and didn't look all that good when he played. Landry hasn't. I think of the players.
He looked decent with Brady the previous year.
Best choice. And I think Golladay got his money from the Giants and never put a bit of effort in. Again, he was supposed to be a locker room cancer and just generally bad player, really, to be honest. I mean, I agree with you that what he did in Detroit was he was excellent in Detroit. He was. And Landry and Tulio, their CVs are fantastic. But if you bring them in now, they're going to help you this year. You're not going to sign them to help you for the next 2 or 3 years. We need to be looking at guys that are going to help us in next year and the year after. If we get guys that will help us now, we'll end up with 6 wins. If those guys turn out to be what you hope they be, sure, we get to 5-6 wins, and now we're picking 6th or 7th in the draft, and now we're not in the quarterback situation. We need a quarterback. Or even if you say keep Mac Jones, we're not going to get the top offensive tackle. We're not going to get Marvin Harrison.
I think what's going for Mac at the moment is his contract. He's effectively cheap as F. If we pick up his 5th year option,
I wouldn't do that.
I don't know. No,
Like I
knowing
said,
Bill as tight as he is,
I think he'll do it. I think he'll do it to control the
100%.
contract.
I
I think I'd cut. I think personally, I think I'd cut him loose because I just don't think he's.
traded. I reckon you could get.
I don't think no one's going to get him.
I reckon, yeah, because we go back to this. Jones's first year under Daniels was amazing, right? We all said it that he had a great rookie year, right? He had Josh Daniels. He had just. Don't shake your head.
Yeah, no, he did have a
He
good.
had a decent rookie year.
Yeah.
He did not have a great rookie year.
And he had that under Daniels. You've got a Jimmy G that is always injured. I'm sorry, but I think Josh Daniels would have Matt Jones for the right price. I don't know what that right price is. Might not be a lot, but I think the time has come to trade the house. Trade who you can pre-deadline, and just go with what you've got left. And if that means you're 2-16 or whatever it is, so be it. If all you get is, I prefer not to trade away Duggar, but if he gets you a second round pick, then maybe that's what you have to do. But trade away anybody who's got value, anybody who is tradable, trade them.
Anybody in a contract year, unless they're like a first round pick talent, you're not getting anything more.
I wouldn't touch the D. I would pay Duggar, I'd pay Mike, but that's the only two I'd pay. And then you rebuild. You get two. I really defensive line, but
yeah, I just think that if you trade like Duggar, you have to pay him as the new team, so you're not going to give up a pick, a high pick to acquire him. Same with Onwenu, same with Bourne, anybody, Uche, they're all out of contract. There'll be pennies on the dollar. Jones, possibly you might get something for, just depending on the market for him. Like you said, Nick, I think it's a good point you make in terms of the Raiders being interested in him with that connection with Daniels, and knowing a few guys there, that connection with Myers as well can't be, undersold. I think you could get something from, but I would doubt it. The more I think of it, maybe a third, fourth, actually, like you're saying, but you're not getting anything major. But I think his confidence can't be any lower. He's not doing your team any good. You just zap it till end of season, and or something like Greer, and just off you go.
I think when you look ahead at the long game, right, with this 100 million, right, we're not going to get any compensatory picks next in 24 in the draft. We're not going to have any because we're going to bring too many free agents in, or you would think we'll bring too many free agents in. So in which case, it's no good sitting there saying, "Well, I'll get a compensatory pick here, and I'll get one there, and I'll get one here," because you won't get them. So you might as well just trade the house now while you can get value from. And even if you end up coming with 5/7s, 5/7s is value for a player that you're not going to have next year. So 5/7s, and therefore getting 5 younger players in next year's draft is better than saying, "Buy you 5, thanks for the effort." Oh, what? Where do I get my 5 players from? You haven't got. Just trade them for anything you can. If you get 5/7s, get 5/7s. That's it.
I with the comp picks though, I think it's if the guys that are let walk, they get decent contracts, isn't it? And then it's determined. It's kind of like a committee, isn't it? It's like, oh, Duggar got a 10 million a year contract. That's worth a fifth round conditional, or a fifth round pick, isn't it? I actually don't know how it's worked. I think that's how it's worked.
But you have to lose more players than you bring in.
Yeah.
So you get
we
get
need to bring in a lot of players.
Yeah, you get a comp pick. Basically, you get a comp pick for every player you lose, but you offset that with every player you bring in. So if you lose 4 players and bring in 3, you'll only get 1 comp pick. If you lose 4 players and you only bring in 1, you'll get 3 comp picks.
Yeah,
so,
I know what you mean. So sell them now so that you don't have to.
Yeah, and then the value of that comp pick is determined by by whatever it is.
Realistically, in the past, we've gone for that. And Nick, thanks for explaining that, because I wasn't sure about it, so I appreciate that. I think what we've done in the past, because we've been a good team, is usually we let the guys go and get the comp picks, because generally we're letting go more than we're adding as a good team, because that's what you should be doing. So as a bad team, I agree, Nick. Yes, we should just what can you get for these guys? Get rid of them, and just let guys that you know are going to be here for the next guys under contract for the next year or 2 play. And I will shut up now because I've got to go. So thank you so much, guys.
Okay, mate.
Going.
Great
show.
No worries, Luke. No worries, mate. Right. Let's have one quick little recap before we get on out of there, guys. So, of course, obviously, our next matchup is against the Bills. I mean, what do we expect from this, guys? What do we expect from this?
Just show up. At least try and compete.
I
think after what I saw, the Bills, I mean, they did struggle a little bit with the Giants, but I think they wrapped it up in the 4th quarter. So I don't anticipate the Bills having any issues versus us. Again, it's going to come down to their offense versus our offense. We might be able to match up a couple of defensive drives, etc., etc. But when it comes down to it, their defense is going to overrule our offense, and then we're going to be back at square one against. I can see this being a Saints game, possibly going back a couple.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a bleak outcome. We'll try and stay as positive as we possibly can, okay? But when you're sitting at 1-5, you're in a position now where it's like we're sitting on the precipice of, on the verge of, I'm not going to say the T word because I don't think we're going to tank. I still think we're going to play competitively, but I just think in truth, this offense just can't do anything. Unless Sidney Soam and Maffey all of a sudden turn into absolute world pros in the next 2 games. I don't see that. I don't see that happening. It's just looking like a bleak outcome. We're trying to work out when our next wins are going to be. It's certainly not going to be against. It's certainly not going to be against Buffalo. It's certainly not going to be against the Dolphins next week because we're going to get absolutely.
I hope it's against the Colts.
We're going to get absolutely.
That's the only game I hope we win.
I mean, Washington, Colts, Giants. That three game run. Washington, Colts, Giants.
I reckon Washington will do us.
And the Jets at home are the only games that I think we've got a chance of winning.
I saw Washington on the weekend. I reckon they'll beat us.
Washington was looked at as a clown franchise, but their offense is actually competent. They have got a competent offense. They've got good receivers on the perimeter. They've got Terry McLaurin. They've got Johan Dotson. They've got Curtis Samuel. They've got the tight end. Oh crap! I can't remember who the tight end name is, but it'll come to me eventually. And they've also got that bruiser running back in the name of Brian Robinson Jr., who could do damage as well.
The tight end's Moss, isn't it? Is it Moss?
No, it's not Moss. No. It's not Moss. It'll get to me. Logan Thomas. That's it. Logan Thomas.
That's it. Yeah.
That's the guy, Logan Thomas. And then the Colts. Well, they're not going to have. It looks like they're going to ice
and Richardson's gone
for the rest of the season. So that means they're going to play it against Gardner Minshew. One team was absolutely shit, and then playing against a team with a quarterback who is not that great either. So,
I think we're going to need a good drinking game that weekend.
Yeah, boy.
Oh, God.
Yeah, boy.
Well, we are only a month away, so
The Patriots actually talking of that weekend. The Patriots have just announced on their website loads of activities that are going on that weekend. So like the Friday and the Saturday, there's loads of like events on locally in Frankfurt.
Is that near the stadium, is it? Or
They're in actual Frankfurt. There's different places,
Right.
but like you can go and have your picture taken with like the 6 Super Bowl trip with the 6 Lombardis. Stefan Vollmer's there. And there's just like, yeah, the cheerleaders are there. There's just loads of like little different events. It's on the way. I'll throw the
Post on the
link
group.
in the chat,
Yeah.
and everyone can have a look. But there's loads of like little different events that you can go and do on the Saturday, and then obviously we'll find the drinking game for Saturday night.
Yeah, but I think that's going to be painful. It's going to be so painful. But I think
I reckon we can win on Sunday against the Colts. That's probably our winning game, I think.
war in a month's time. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Guys, thank you all for tuning in. Nick, DJ, and obviously Luke, who passed by as well. Great having you on again. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the show. Please make sure you smash the like button. You hit the subscribe button while you're at it as well. Follow us on all our social media platforms and follow us on our podcast on Spotify as well. Patriots lose 21-17. Las Vegas Raiders, a team which is basically the NFL equivalent to Rutgers, beat us. And now we have to go straight into the jaws of our hated AFC East rivals and the Buffalo Bills. Can we get something out of that game? I mean, I've got more chance being an anchor for Sky Sports News, but rather than get the win. Peace out, people. And go Patriots. And cheers.